Soon as
Oh, he's good. He's just getting set up for the signing.
Oh,
Yeah, he's
okay.
good. He's training with me today.
Oh, excellent.
We're good.
Okay. Good afternoon, and welcome to what will soon be our new Erie County Department of Public Works highway barns in the town of Lancaster, replacing an old, antiquated, and truthfully dangerous barns that had we previously used in the town of Clarence. I'm Erie County Executive Mark Polenkars, and I'm joined by our Department of Public Works Commissioner William Gary Jr., as well as our Deputy Commissioners, Karen Hoke for the Division of Highways, and the Deputy Commissioners responsible for this project right now, Tracy Sahaki, the head of our Buildings and Grounds. This is the first new highway barns that Erie County has built since the Gorski administration. It has been that long, and that was the one that was built in Aurora. Some of our highway barns are very old. We had to replace the one in the town of Clarence due to structural issues in the building, and we decided it made sense to put it here in Lancaster, which was more situated based on our highway districts. This project, like many of our projects, does not come with a low price tag. It is an expensive project, but it's one that will create a better system for our highway division in the future. I want to thank our partners in this. We have our friends from Lyro Engineering are here. We're involved in the construction and design of this facility. We can't do this on its own, and we do have to have our partners in the private sector that we use for engineering and architecture. So I want to thank them for being here, Jeff and Bob. I also want to thank the great crews that are working on this project. They thankfully had a nicer winter than we anticipated. Because we didn't get a terrible winter. But if you know anything about the snowstorm that hit in January in Lancaster, there was 6 feet of snow on this site at various times during the construction phase in January. So it did hold us back a little bit during that period. But we are on schedule, and I really like what I'm seeing here today, which is going to be the topping off ceremony, signing the final beam, which will go in place. And then very quickly, because this is not like a normal building where you're going to be doing a tremendous amount of interior work. There is some interior work, but a lot of this is going to be open space and bays associated with our Department of Public Works Highway Division and what they do to ensure that our roads get constructed during the late spring, summer, and fall months. And then, of course, we plow snow during the winter. So with that, I want to turn it over to our Commissioner of Public Works, William Gary, to talk just a little bit more about the project, as well as to the Deputy Commissioners, so they can say what this project more about it, but also the timelines and the expectations of completion. So, Commissioner?
Thank you. Thank you and good afternoon. So projects like this wouldn't happen without the great support of the county executive in putting the tools that we need to make everything come together. This building, as he said, is replacing probably one of our older structures from the early 1900s. It was originally designed to be a train repair facility, so as you can imagine, the efficiencies of trying to move some of these larger dump trucks and bigger pieces of equipment around, it just wasn't there. And having a newer state-of-the-art facility gives us something that is not only going to be the most energy efficient building, but also practical and efficient for the workforce, as well as all the benefits it'll pay back. Being right in the center of our district as opposed to being in the northern part of the district and spending time just commuting to and from whether it's a plow route or paving the roads. So it's a big initiative. It's been a long time coming, but this fall and winter we'll be operating full-time out of this facility. It's a little over 20,000 square feet and at a price of just over $9 million.
And the timeline?
Timeline for construction, obviously, we should be hopefully moving in sometime in early November.
Thank you. Thank you, William. Just another example of our commitment to investing in our infrastructure. We hear a lot about road work. Well, you also have to invest in the work behind the scenes to get that road work done. And this is an example of it by building a new modern highway barns, which also meets the needs of our current employees. One of the things we do not have in the current barns are men's and women's bathrooms and rest areas, which of course this facility will, being a modern facility. The ones that were built pre 1980s had very limited facilities, and we think it's important that we meet the needs of today. So I want to thank all who were involved in this project. We take questions now or after the signing? Peter?
Let's do them now.
Let's do them now. Okay, any questions on topic, and then I'll take off topics.
salt storage. I mean, I talked to you again.
Yeah.
This is going to allow you to store more salt if we have a mild winter.
This site here is one of our largest pre the older salt barns. It's over on the backside here. It's a little over 2,500 ton that it can store right here. The newer facilities, the pre-sprung structures that we're building, a few of the other districts, they're between 2,500 and 3,500 ton. So yeah, it'll be able to allow us to store that salt here, so we don't, if we do have these mild winters, and in the situation we're in this year, we're right around going into this weekend prior to Friday's snowfall, about 5,000 ton that we would have to pay the vendor to keep, but we'll be able to do that now on site.
Can you talk about the mild winter and what kind of savings taxpayers are seeing so far this year with not having as many days out on the road?
Right. Yeah, as we closed out 23, January and November of 2023 were our lowest diesel use. So salt's our most expensive commodity that we use, and then second is diesel fuel. We closed out with roughly about $1 million in surplus, and that's because of the lower fuel usage, but also the salt usage. We have to use 70% of what we bid tonnage amount that in May the previous year. So this year we're right on target with the mild winter, and then that'll couple together. So it's probably about $1 million that we're able to save in the Department of Public Works that rolled into the county savings in general of roughly $33 million in 2023.
Does this facility too enhance your abilities to make repairs, say on trucks or things like that?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So the repair facilities just on the open space areas where our mechanics and welders, they'll have their own bays. They have above ground lifts in the higher ceilings. So now, believe it or not, some of our highway districts are limited on the height of the roof. So then we can't lift up some of the dump trucks to work underneath them. These new facilities, like what's behind us, will not only have efficiencies there for the mechanics, but we'll also have training space, something that we haven't been able to really do off-site or on-site. We had to go off-site to do all our mass trainings, whether it's OSHA training or specific training for road crews with work zone safety and the mechanics and being able to work on some of the newer equipment. But it's also technologically, a lot of our newer facilities and the equipment that the mechanics are using are Bluetooth based or web based. So the scanners and all the equipment are going to have much more functionality in a building like this as opposed to our older facilities.
Any other on-topic questions? Any off-topic? 9.2 million. 9.2 million.
County Executive, what are the conversations like that lead you to make the decision not to declare a state of emergency ahead of the eclipse?
I'm just saying we're constantly having discussions with regards to our partners. Our biggest concern right now is going to be cellular service, which is out of our hands. We expect with the amount of individuals that are coming, if you've ever gone to a football game and you know how difficult sometimes it is to get reception and cellular service at the football game, well, think about that all over Erie County and Niagara County with 1 million people. So that is out of our hands completely. We have a good team in place in emergency services, our emergency medical services. Public Works has been involved, working with our partners with the state and local governments. But right now our biggest concern in some ways is cellular service, because there are so many people who are going to want to use their phone to take photos and post photos on Instagram and you name it, that we're expecting there to be a difficult means of communication, which generally isn't a problem unless you have to call for an emergency and you can't get through because the phone lines are tied up, or there's no cellular service because so many people are trying to use data. So that's a big concern that we're thinking of. We're hoping for a day like today, nice and sunny. As it is, it would eventually, starting around this time, get a little darker and darker up until 3/18, in which we enter the totality. But we are recommending to people if you're going somewhere that day, to get there earlier. There are a number of parties that are being scheduled and events. If you are planning on trying to attend one of those events, you should leave earlier. So the totality is at 3/18. You shouldn't think you're going to be able to drive at 2:30. Roads are going to be packed. But we are worried about cellular service, and that is something that's out of our hands. I know Verizon is committed to bringing in an additional a mobile unit, which will be parked in downtown, to help with cellular service there, but that means nothing if we have a whole bunch of people, 100,000 people at Delaware Park. So we are concerned about cellular coverage.
Will you be standing up any kind of a command center? I know that the governor, during their briefing this morning, said they were urging counties.
The Emergency Operations Center for the county will be open starting at 8 o'clock that morning. The Emergency Operations Center, the new one for the city of Buffalo, will be open. New York State will be revving up its Emergency Operations Center that they use at the thruway barns during snow emergencies, so that'll be open. I do not see at this point declaring a state of emergency because it doesn't really do anything. The issue is what additional powers would I gather by declaring a state of emergency. But right now our biggest concern is cellular communications, and not even for worrying about, oh, I can't post my photo on Instagram. It's more of if somebody has an emergency and they need to call 911, can they get through? Remember, all calls from a cell phone to 911 get routed to our system downtown. Everyone. If you call from a landline, it actually goes to a different system. But if everyone's trying to get on and post things on their websites and pages, it's going to slow down the ability to get those phone calls from 911 through. So we are really concerned about that. Our operations centers will be open just to monitor things in the area. They are pre-staging ambulance services in parts of the city as well as the county, where we feel that there may be an additional need. We even talked about, depending on how bad the roads are, if someone has an emergency, such as a stroke or a heart attack, rather than transporting them by ambulance, there's a chance they'll be transported by helicopter through Mercy Flight, and even the Erie County Sheriff's Office can transport people through Air One. Because if the roads are a standstill, but we need to get someone to a hospital immediately, we may be calling Mercy Flight for something that they normally wouldn't do, which is maybe transport someone from Lancaster downtown to Buffalo General Hospital, because normally you'd be able to get the ambulance down there in a short enough period. But if the roads are blocked with so many people on the roads, and it would take what normally would be a 10-minute drive an hour, then we may have to even use air flight to get people to an emergency center. In general, I'm hoping for a wonderful day where we don't have any issues, but there's not a single day that doesn't go by in Erie County where we don't have someone that has a heart attack, we don't have someone that has a stroke, we don't have someone that was involved in a car accident that needs to be transported immediately to a hospital. And if the roads are blocked because we have 1 million more people in our community and folks driving in from outside the area to witness the eclipse, that creates a problem. So we're going to have ambulances stationed in various parts, working with our partners across Erie County. Verizon is committed a mobile unit for downtown Buffalo. At this point, AT&T has not committed a mobile unit. We're a little miffed about that. We think it would be not important, but I'm hoping for the best. As they say in emergency services, you prepare for the worst and you hope for the best. So we're preparing for the worst, but we are hoping for the best, which will be a sunny day and no major matters of concern.
More law enforcement presence, do you think?
I'm not certain you'll see more of a law enforcement presence, but I know law enforcement are all actively engaged. They may have more people working in the daylight hours than they might normally, just to ensure that we have that presence there. There were some rumors that roads are going to be closed. No roads will be closed. Roads may stop if people pull over to the side of the road because they want to witness the eclipse, but there are no roads that are planned on being closed. I know the Department of Public Works as well as the DOT will not be doing major road projects that day because we don't want to hold up traffic on major routes. So if there were road closings a day or two before associated with a construction project on April 8th, that will not be the case. There may be detours depending on the condition of the road, but there will not be those types of road. You won't see major construction on the road that day just because we want people to be able to get through the community as quickly as possible. Not only our folks going to where they have to, but also those that are coming in from outside the area. What we've been able to gather from the hotels, not only are they all booked, most of them are booked for multiple nights, but there's a lot of people who are coming in the night before or 2 nights before, and that are planning on leaving after the eclipse, which means there's going to be a lot of folks that are looking to get into Buffalo early and then get out as quickly as possible after the eclipse. We're telling everybody that you should anticipate you better get there 2 hours before the eclipse for your event and not expect to leave until 2 hours afterwards just because of so many people being at these events. So if the eclipse starts sometime around 2 o'clock, 1:30, but it actually, the main part of it is 3:18 to about 3:22. But you should anticipate from basically 1 o'clock till 5 o'clock, the community still being in a standstill because of all the vehicles and people who will be out. There's no bad place to view the eclipse. As long as you have a clear view and it's a clear day, the sun's going to look the same whether you're in Grand Island, Buffalo, Sardinia. It's going to look the same as long as it's a clear day. So there's no reason to say, oh, I have to go to a location to see the eclipse. You can see it anywhere. Just make certain you have your eclipse classes beforehand.
Have you received any feedback from businesses? Because I know you had suggested they might want to consider closing that day because of the traffic. Did you get any indication if some are closing?
Well, some are going partial closing. Wegmans has announced they'll be closed for the half hour. They want their employees to enjoy the eclipse. We want people to enjoy the eclipse. I'd feel really bad if someone's sitting inside and not being able to go out and see this, because it is a once in a lifetime experience. The last time was 1925. We had a full eclipse here, and the next one is 2144. None of us are going to be around to see it then. So I'm hopeful that businesses also need to understand if they work 3 to 11, well, 3 to 11 shift, it's going to be really hard for the people that work 3 to 11 to get there because the roads are going to be shut down. Not from closing roads, but just so many cars on the roads. That just what we've been told in the other communities that have experienced the major eclipse, like Nashville and Denver, is that their major interstates became parking lots because there was so much traffic and people just parked their cars, got out of their vehicles, and looked at the eclipse. So if the New York State Thruway or the 190 or the 290 are like that, think how difficult it's going to be to get people around. We haven't had any negative feedback. I mean, there's some places that have announced that they're going to close early if they normally work till 5 or they're 24 hour, they'll be closed for a part of it. And I think that's good because the more people we have off the roads, the better. I'm very glad the school districts are closed for that day because what's usually happening around 3 o'clock on a weekday? Kids are in buses, kids are walking home from school. Well, it would be really difficult to have those kids sitting inside a bus and just sitting there for hours. And we want them to enjoy the eclipse. So I'm glad that pretty much every school district in our area will be closed, allowing the children to enjoy the eclipse with their families at home. All right, thanks everyone. Now we're going to sign. And we have markers.